and he's been holding it for the past 2 years. He wants to know whether he can hold on to the stock for one more year. Wants to know what sort of outlook should he aim at, and also what sort of target should he look at for Thomas Cook over the next 1 year. Rajesh, good morning, and I'll pose this question to you. What's your outlook on Thomas Cook? Definitely, you've had the entire hospitality and travel and tourism sector be impacted with COVID-19 over the last 1.5 years. But how's the outlook looking for Thomas Cook? Can Mr. N. Chandrasekaran hold on to this particular counter for the next 1 year?
Morning, Alex. You said it right. The hospitality industry has been affected very severely. In fact, it was one of the industry which has been severely the highest affected industry, I would say. And there are no hopes that in the next 1 year or so things would be coming back to normal. That was pre-COVID area. So I don't think there is any reason to believe that the stock is going to perform in the next 1 year or so. So unless the gentleman is ready to hold on for a longer period of time, I don't find any reason to be in the stock. Maybe one can switch to other sectors which are doing well. In the long term, yes, of course, we all have hopes that after the vaccination drives and on, these things would improve. So if he is a long-term investor, one can hold, but for the short term, I would say one should switch.
Okay, that's the word coming in on Thomas Cook. Unfortunate dip last year, if I'm not mistaken, when the international entity had problems. Now, we've got the first question on YouTube coming in from Satish, and this one's for you, Kunal. Good morning to you as well. This is on Sharda Cropchem. The question is, would you buy for 1 to 2 years as of now?
Alex, yeah, I think it's a good chart. Last 1 year seen a good recovery from 100 odd levels where it started off from the March 2020 lows. It's done reasonably well, rising up to almost 3.5 times from those levels. So longer term charts, are into a recovery mode, and the short term charts are also quite buoyant for Sharda Crop. I'm not sure of the liquidity of this name because I don't track the stock that often. So you just have to delve more deep into the liquidity aspect over here, but nevertheless the charts are quite okay for Sharda Crop, and if you're looking to buy, I think current levels is where you can look to start average, and if the market gets into a bit more volatile zone, then I believe any kind of dips which comes by, for example, the stock comes back to say 320, 325 mark, that should be another good level where you can look to average further.
All right. Next viewer query is coming from the handle name as JML Motors. Next time I would request you to put in your name as well. His query is that he wants to know about RSWM and VA Tech companies. He wants to know whether are these the good companies to actually invest in, and if so, what sort of target should one look at for these companies? Rajesh, I come to you with this question. How is RSWM and VA Tech Vabag? How are these companies placed? It makes sense to invest in both of these companies?
See, if it's a long-term investor, yes, it's a very good company. I would say it's into textile and some subsidiary as power also. It's a Rajasthan-based company. They're into spinning and weaving, and with the kind of activity we are witnessing at this point of time in textile sector as such, and some sort of PLI also being expected in this sector, I think this is going to perform well. Valuations are also very attractive. So if somebody has a long-term view, by long-term I mean 12 to 18 months, one can definitely buy.
Okay, we've got a question coming in from Balakrishnan on SBI. Bala, you've asked several questions, but I'm going to take your question on SBI. You've asked about Tata Motors and ITC as well, but let's see if we have time for that. We've got a view that is being asked, Kunal, for 1 year, and the stock is trading at a record high as we speak, right? Is there significant room? A lot of people have pointed to fundamentals being better than its peers, and therefore the need perhaps for a re-rating, but how is it looking on the charts?
It looks very attractive. In fact, SBI has been one of the top performing PSU banking stocks in the last 1.5 year. more importantly, the stock has got back its leadership quality. So, these are all classic ingredients which you look out for in large cap names and most solid stocks as well, where they have, leadership quality, where the price performance is quite strong, and where these stocks, they manage to, lead the breakout and give direction to the entire sector. So SBI seems to have shown all of those characteristics. So if you're bullish on the markets, then I think SBI, of course, has to be one of the top picks in the banking space from that aspect. And you can also look at maybe an ICICI Bank as well from the private sector bank. So bullish on SBI, and I think may not be exactly 1 year, but I think over the next 1 to 2 years, I would look at even a potential 500 to 550 as a potential target range for the stock.
The next query is from Ritesh Garg. He's saying he has Reliance Industries June 2200 call. He's getting 45% return. He wants to know whether should he hold it until Reliance goes to 2300 or should he go ahead and book profits. Kunal, what should Ritesh do with Reliance June 2200 call?
I think it's a tough one, frankly, because I'm bullish on the stock, but at the same time, when you look at the last 3 days or 4 days of price movement, Reliance has run up quite strongly from 1950 levels in just a matter of 3-4 days. The stock has jumped up to 2200. So the question is, positionally, yes, bullish, but the question is that whether the stock consolidates over here for some more time, then your call option, you may lose out. You may start losing out the time value on the call option. So that could be a bit tricky. I would suggest that book out profits over here for Reliance Industries, and then watch the stock for some more correction if it happens along the way. Say over the next a couple of days, over the next 1 week, if the stock consolidates and if you get the stock say somewhere closer to 2150 levels again, then I think it could be a good level for you to buy back the call option again. So I would suggest to book profits as of now.
Okay, Rajesh, coming to you on a long-term query, we've got Raghu, who's holding HDFC Life 50 shares at an average cost of 614 rupees per share. Raghu wants to add further for the long term and is wondering whether to continue to add or should he look at another stock.
See, for a long-term view, I would say, Alex, this entire insurance pack is going to do well, whether it's HDFC Life or SBI Life or ICICI Pru, Lombard. I think that the entire insurance pack is going to do very well. One, because of the increased education about insurance, which people are having. The ongoing COVID process has again given a impetus to this industry, and not to forget the value of new business. At least HDFC Life has garnered. They are more into digital, and the spend they have made into digital is going to give good returns in the long term. I think it's a very good choice. And for long term, maybe 18 months, 24 months, this stock can move up from 20-25% easily from the current market price. So I would say, yes, of course, one can buy.
All right, the next query is coming in from Pavan Kumar. He wants to know whether he can buy ONGC June 120 call. Will the rally continue as it's on verge of breaking its resistance? Is the word is what Pavan wants to know, Kunal. So can he buy ONGC June 120 call?
Well, it will be a bit of a touch and go because the stock is nearing that breakout. In fact, 120 is the resistance for ONGC on the short-term, medium-term chart. So we can anticipate a breakout, but then I would suggest that maybe wait for another couple of points. Let the stock get back this momentum, and let's see whether the gains which or the breakout which the stock is showing today sustains for the remainder part of the day. If that happens, then I believe buying an at-the-money call option for ONGC at 120 strike could be a good strategy. So it's a good wait and watch approach as of now. Until the end of the day, if the stock manages to sustain this rally 3.5% and slightly gain beyond this as well, then I believe you should look to you can probably anticipate the breakout and then look to buy the call option.
Okay, we've got Neeraj, who's asked a question on central depository receipts, CDSL, Central Depository Services. The question is on the long-term prospects of this counter. What would you say, Rajesh, would that be? He's bought at levels of 880. This is now he's looking to hold for 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, like there are basically two players in the depository segment. One is NSDL and the other one is CDSL. So NSDL is unlisted, and if somebody wants to take an exposure on the broking business as such, CDSL is the only choice. Valuation wise, it's very good. Debt free company. It's doing very well. The number of additions in demat accounts has been very encouraging in the last 1 year or so. But I like to add one more thing into this, because BSE Limited is holding 20% of CDSL, and the valuation of which is almost 2,000 odd rupees. And the entire market cap of BSE is 4,000 odd crore rupees. Not to forget, BSE is holding around 600 odd crore rupees in its balance sheet. So I would say if somebody wants to take an exposure in CDSL because of the kind of run-up it has taken in the recent past, I would say BSE would be a safe bet where you have an exposure to an exchange and even to CDSL.
Right, our next query is come from Sagar. Sagar is one of our regular viewers, and before I go on to his queries, Kunal, Sagar actually wants to thank you for your view on Heidelberg Cement yesterday. He definitely benefited from that particular view on this cement company. His query today is that he wants a view on Eon Exchanges. He's bought 100 shares at 999 rupees per share. He wants to know whether he should continue to hold on to the stock or go ahead and book profits.
I think it's an interesting name, Eon Exchange. I think it's not a stock, frankly, which I track that often. But then the charts for Eon Exchange, I was just looking at the stock, over the last 12 months to over the last 4-5 years. I think it's done phenomenally well and risen up, to almost 4x or 5x from its 2015-16 lows. So I think in that aspect, it gives off a stock which looks quite strong on the long-term charts. And if you bought at lower levels, then I believe that you can continue to hold on. The stock doesn't show, those kind of extreme volatility. I think the best which the stock has gone through in terms of a corrective phase was in 2018-19 as such. So I think it seems to be a good enough chart to hold on from a longer-term perspective.
Okay, I'm just taking a chance on this one. Rajesh, do you have a view on RPSG Ventures? We've got Pranav Dangi, who's bought at levels of 400, and he's asking about the long-term prospects.
The long-term prospects of this company is very bright. The valuations at which this is trading at this point of time is a very low percentage of the actual valuation. I would say they have the entire gamut of financial services into that. They are moving into their holdings into different companies like FSL. They have a whole mall in that, property businesses there. They have launched some chips type of snacks business into that. I think there is a lot of value in that one. Would be better hold for a longer haul of time. But the only problem with this counter is it's a low liquidity stock, but for a long-term investor, liquidity doesn't matter as such. And I won't be surprised if from the current market prices move by 50-60% in the next 1 year or so if this pandemic thing goes out. This is the only risk which I find in this stock.
The next queries come from Sherry and wants to know that can she put 10% of her capital in India Bulls Housing as it's done deal with HDFC recently in April 2021, but she's definitely afraid of it because considering the news flow that has been surrounding that particular counter for a while. So Rajesh, is it prudent to actually allocate 10% of her capital to India Bulls Housing Finance, and if not, which other stock would make sense?
The fact that India Bull Housing Finance has seen a lot of restructuring in the recent past, the promoters being changed and all those things, but still I would prefer going with larger names like HDFC Limited or LIC Housing Finance, which gives good dividend and has a backing of LIC, rather than going with India Bulls Housing. Even a Canfin Homes is a better bet. So I would say instead of buying India Bulls Housing, you can take a pick from any of these three, HDFC on the largest side, LIC in the medium side, and Can Bank in the smaller size. Canfin, I'm sorry.
All right, we've got Shashrut, who's looking for the short-term prospects of ONGC. it was looking strong just a short while back. Kunal, what would you recommend that should do in the short term with regard to ONGC?
I think it's a good chart. We were discussing this earlier as well, that how 120 is a resistance point for ONGC, and I would sense that if that 120 level gets taken out, that is where a bigger breakout for ONGC could probably happen, and this could be at least a 15 to 20% breakout, and it's a big breakout, frankly, for a stock like ONGC, which is a very or typically a very low beta stock in that sense. So I would suggest that you wait and watch. Let that 120 level get be breached or be taken out. I think if that happens, then I think it makes a good sense to try and buy, because then you could be buying at a breakout point where there could be a very strong surge of momentum. Otherwise, what the stock can do is it can just about continue to remain in the range around this 110, 115 on the lower side to 120 on the upper side for some more time. So I think time is the important element over here, and if you're looking to time it properly, then I believe wait for a breakout about that 120 mark.
Alright, the next query is coming in from KR Balan, wants to know about Burger King. He has 300 shares which he's purchased at 145 rupees per share. He wants to know what should he actually do with Burger King, hold, sell or switch. Kunal, what's your take on Burger King?
Hold, in fact, I believe that even though the chart history is very limited, but I believe that on the very short term aspect, the last 1 week, 2 weeks, the stock has seen some incremental or increase in volumes. And I think that's a very encouraging sign for a stock like Burger King. So I think in that aspect, I would suggest that you can hold on to your investments over here. Let the previous resistance, a swing high of 159, 160 get taken out. If that high is taken out, then you could be looking at a possibility of the stock coming back towards that 200 levels as well. So it's a good anticipation trade. The stock is at 147 levels. Would hope for a breakout pretty soon about that 160 mark, and that breakout could probably lead to at least another 30 to 40 points on the upside for the stock.
All right, the next question is coming in from Pooja. Pooja has bought HCL Tech at levels of 951 and is intending to hold for the long term. Rajesh, is that a good idea, or would you suggest shifting to another IT company?
Is a good bet, I would say. Yes, of course, there are other companies also which are doing very well, like the likes of Infosys or Wipro. But HCL Tech is also not bad. One can continue to hold the numbers. They've been pretty good. They have good number of clients, and the kind of management commentary which we have seen in the last quarter results gives hope that the company is going to do well. So there is no second thoughts that this company is going to give good returns in the next 1 year or so. Definitely one can go ahead.
Alright, our next query is coming in from Padma. She's bought 200 shares of Mahindra Lifespace. She's bought them at 520 rupees per share. Wants to know whether she should continue to hold on to the stock over the longer term or consider switching to another counter. Rajesh, what's your take coming in on Mahindra Lifespace? Makes sense to continue to hold on to the counter?
We discussed that the entire hospitality sector is in a problem. So it's no point holding into the stock at this point of time. If somebody wants to be in a hospitality sector, the likes of Indian hotels or East India hotels are good because they are on a very low valuation, and if one wants to hold for 2-3 years, that's a better bet. But still, I would say it's no point sticking to these stocks at this point of time. It's better to switch to either cement or infrastructure. Even PSU banking space is looking very good.
I'm going to ask you to give a quick view on this one. Manjunath has got 100 shares of GIC Re at an average price of 415 and is therefore losing quite a bit on their investment. The question is, should they shift out to SBI Life? I know it's a completely different sector, but would you suggest that shift or another stock that you would recommend?
Is it for me?
Yes, Rajesh, for you.
Yeah. See, one can definitely hold on to GIC Re because in reinsurance business is the only listed player, but SBI Life would be a better bet because it's a direct play into insurance, and as we discussed some time back, that insurance sector is going to outperform in the next 1 year or so. I would say one can definitely go ahead with SBI Life if one has to take a choice between the two.
All right, the next query that we have is from Shanti in the view of, wants to know about Goodyear, saying that in the view of FY 2021 was good. Is it good to go ahead and buy Goodyear at current market price with a target of around 1,175 rupees per share? Wants to know what's the take on Goodyear over the medium to long term. Rajesh, what's your take on Goodyear?
Not only on Goodyear, but the entire tire space as such. Goodyear being an MNC company, they have recently announced very good dividend. The numbers have been good. I think it's going to outperform. It has not performed at all when you compare to the likes of CEAT or JK Tyre or Balkrishna Industries. It has not performed. It will perform well. It is a catch-up game which will take place. The only issue is with the volume. So if one is a long-term investor, definitely one can buy this stock.
Yeah. All right. Let's quickly go to the high risk and low risk segment. I think a lot of viewers are also interested in that. Kunal, starting with you, what are the ideas that you have for us today?
First one is about Coal India, expecting the stock to break out pretty soon. We've seen many strengths from many PSU stocks, so I'm expecting Coal India to break out soon on the upside. So would suggest a buy with 160, 165 as a target, and stop loss to be kept at 143. And the second would be a buy in Reliance Industries, expecting the stock to do pretty well for itself over the near term. Maybe the stock may consolidate for a couple of days, but then I believe that with the recent breakout, the trend seems to be a very strong on the upside for Reliance Industries in the near term. So buy with a target of 2,250 and stop us at 2135.
All right, Rajesh, what are your high risk and low risk ideas for the viewers today?
I would go with the cement company, that's Dalmia Bharat, with a target of 1900 odd rupees in the next 9 to 12 months. They have reported a strong set of numbers. The takeover of Mulli Industries is going to help in near future. They have plans to double capacity in the next 3 years. For the time being, the capacity has been slowed down because of pandemic, but ultimately that's going to happen. Focus on debt reduction is there. The balance sheet is very strong, and the best part is the Eastern India market is doing very well, where the price rise has taken place for around 20 odd %. So I think this company is going to do very well. For medium term target, one can have a target of 1900 odd rupees. The other one would be UPL. That's a strong play on agro industry as such. The numbers were very strong. The margin has expanded. Debt they need to reduce, but the company has focused on debt reduction also. Strong crop prices, MSP hikes, these are going to do well. Even the Agastya acquisition which they have made would add to the numbers, and the Latin American market is doing very well. The target is 925 rupees in the next 6 to 9 months.
All right, thank you Kunal as well as Rajesh for joining us on ET Now and resolving viewer queries, also giving your high risk and low risk ideas for our viewers. All right, but on that note, we slip into a break in this edition of Buy Now, Sell Now, but stay tuned, more on the other side, so don't go anywhere.